Hey, what's up guys? Oliver here. We're back in Long Beach. Gonna do another walk around video since the last one was pretty well received. Today we're gonna do my 2003 Dyna FXDX with a ProCharger. So this bike's a 2003, which would have started as an 88 cubic inch motor. This is actually a 103. So it's big bore and stroker. That combo right there is good for a pretty good amount of horsepower. These things are pretty fast. The ProCharger on top makes this about a 200 horsepower bike. The last time it was dynoed, leaky intake seals and a few other things, it still made 180 something on the dyno. It's a handful. It's a lot of fun. This thing really gets down the road pretty good. I will say though, it doesn't ride like a giant torquey big cubic inch motor. The ProCharger actually bleeds off a lot of pressure at idle and even up to, like, let's say mid throttle. And you can hear it when the motor's running, that the blow off is constantly bleeding off pressure. Once you open that throttle and the vacuum closes that, it stretches your arms out, man. This thing takes off. It's deceivingly fast. I mean, it's a heavy bike, but it goes. It really does. If you're not familiar with ProChargers, basically what it is a belt-driven, it's kind of a cross between a turbo and a supercharger. So, meaning it's externally mounted to the engine, but it's belt-driven. So it's, I mean, I guess you would call it closer to a supercharger than a turbo. And this is a blow-through setup on a Mikuni HSR carburetor. Obviously you have a intercooler right here and pressurized manifold. This thing has a fuel pump on it. And on the other side is the big old ProCharger sitting here with a funnel. And this thing will suck your hand in if you're not careful. So I can't take full credit for this bike. I did not build this bike from scratch. I actually bought it off of a friend who I believe bought it off someone. I think this bike came from the East Coast. I heard that it was a New York bike. I'm not positive. If you used to own this bike or whatever, leave a comment. I would love to hear more about it. Anyway, when I got it, totally different paint job. It did not have a lot of the accessories and stuff that I have on this thing. I knew that this bike was motor-wise and stuff like that was solid. So what I did was basically give it a full makeover, starting with this paint set. I basically had this custom painted, Battleship Gray, double pinstripe, 03 anniversary badges, anniversary badge on the front fender. When I do Dynas, I tend to lean more towards a factory custom look than FXRs. Like my previous FXR that you saw, I think they just, like, in my mind anyway, those are really quintessential 90s customs, custom paint jobs, aftermarket parts. Whereas when I do a Dyna, I like to use a lot of, like, more of a factory customized look. Obviously the wheels are aftermarket and a few of the other things, but I really do like these kind of factory passenger pegs and the toolbox, and even like the factory sort of light bar and the factory mirrors. I just like the P&A parts and accessories catalog when I do Dynas. It for whatever reason, it just, that's where my train of thought goes. So starting in the front, I went with a 21-inch Lindell fan tab wheel, they're called, and 18 in the back. So 18-21 setup, which I think just looks great on pretty much every bike. Floating Sunstars, probably. I'm not positive on the rotors. I added the chrome dual disc lower legs, OEM Harley fork brace, Screaming Eagle fork brace. Grips and pegs are matching. Performance Machine, Super Trap 2-in-1 with no backplate, just discs but no backplate. It's got all stainless clutch lines, brake lines. There's 2 oil coolers underneath the bike. The main thing you'll notice on the gauge setup is probably this Screaming Eagle digital tack and shift light. This is like an old parts and accessories thing that I just think is kind of matches with the bike. I've got these little parts and accessories, thermometer and analog clock on here, which I think is pretty cool. Police style gas cap, just, you know, for the blacked out look. It's not mellow at all, but It's a very, again, sort of like factory looking custom. Like this really does kind of look like a 2003 special edition sort of bike. And that's, again, what I was kind of going for with these things. The seat is actually, I don't know if it's super old, but it's a CNC custom seat. It's something that I had, again, kind of on the shelf. And I mean, I don't ride this bike like super long distance or anything, so it's a good around town seat. All right, guys, that's it for the 2003 ProCharged FXDX Dyna. Hope you enjoyed it. This bike, like I said, is not my daily rider, but it is a very, very fun bike to ride. And, you know, aside from the ProCharger, looks, like I said, kind of like a factory custom kind of style bike. I don't know. I don't have any plans of getting rid of this thing. It's probably one of my long-term keeper bikes. It's just really, it's a fun bike to ride.